war stops for the time being, see who's got the right on their side. Once again, Ali has problems in his own camp. Again, he never wins, but he loses. Who are the troublemakers in his own camp now this time? The people who object to the arbitration. The people who say that he had no right to agree to arbitration. These people are known in Arabic as harajis. Haraja means to go out. They're the people who went out, who disagreed and went out from the camp. So Ali has to fight again. The Harajis continue for 3 or 4 centuries as a protest group, sort of like a bin Laden group. Very much like a bin Laden group. So these trends in modern Islam are already there in the classical period. They say that, according to Islam, you're not permitted to make war on fellow Muslims. But they say that in their war against Ali now, that Ali apostated himself from Islam by agreeing to arbitrate with bad Muslims. Well, that could be bin Laden out in Afghanistan today. This is like, I don't, Frank, you see, you know the history, it's all there. It just recurs in more modern form. So these Harajis are in the camp, and it's a very severe situation that he has to deal with, and it's a very bloody one too. But again, Ali prevails over the Harajis. But the Harajis, the refugees take off to the outer parts of the empire, and they survive in these outer parts for several centuries thereafter. And if you want to know, they're still surviving in Islam today, but in the situation we're watching. The ones who protest, who say that all you other Muslims, basically you're Uncle Tom Muslims. You agree with the Westerners, you go along with their ways, you've apostated yourselves from Islam, therefore we can kill you. That's just what the Harajis were saying back at the time of Ali. You asked me about the sects, and we're going to deal with Shiism. Are you getting a picture of how the sects developed? That's what we're doing. Not sex, S-E-X, but sex, S-E-C-T-S. Okay, so the arbitration then occurs. And the decision, guided by Amr, who's a very important figure you see in all this, is that both sides agree to depose their leaders from their offices. But that's ridiculous for Ali. I mean, Muawiyah has no status at all anyway. And Ali is deposed as caliph by this arbitration. So, I mean, he loses the caliphate, basically. And Muawiyah had nothing to lose by such an arbitration. So, in any case, it's a very bad result for Ali. It doesn't help Muawiyah to any extent, but doesn't hurt him. And 2 years later, in 661, Ali is assassinated by a disenchanted, guess who? Haraji, who had lost his brother or father or relatives in the fighting with Ali and took vengeance on him for the loss of his family members. And he was assassinated somewhere in what's modern Iraq. There are 2 holy cities there. One is Karbala, and the other is, I can't remember the name now. There's been a lot of fighting there, and Shiite mosque there. Anyway, that's the town outside of which Ali is assassinated, the second one, not Karbala, but the other town. I can't remember. It'll come to my mind here, the name of it. In any event, the story is a romantic one, that Ali's body is put on, slung onto the back of his camel, and the camel is let go into the desert. And where the camel stopped, or the body slid off, that's where they built this shrine. and that's now the Mosque of Ali in Iraq, in this town. I'm trying to, any of you Shiites remember the town that I'm talking about in Iraq? Any Shiites in the room who can tell me? The U.S. Army was in there recently and had a lot of trouble there, and then pulled out. They were being stoned and everything was being thrown at them. Not long before, when after the first Gulf War, Saddam went in there with his tanks and actually not blew up the mosque, but fired at the mosque where they were all inside the Mosque of Ali there. It'll come to me, the name of this town in Iraq. But it's still there today, and it's still a Shiite holy site. And the grave of Ali is there. All these Shiite shrines are in southern Iraq, south of Baghdad. These are things, you know, if you were a U.S. Army and go in with this kind of awareness and cultural perspective, it could help you a bit.
Basra?
Huh?
Basra?
No, not Basra. That's further south. That's one of the camp cities of Omar. But this other town is just Najaf. You see, it came back to me. I'm not dead yet. Almost, but not quite. Najaf. That's where Ali is buried, and it's in the news. His son will be buried at this other place, Karbala, which we'll hear about. That's in the news too. These are all Shiite shrines in southern Iraq. Shiites are never going to give up southern Iraq to anybody. I mean, Saddam can brutalize them and do whatever he wants to them. He didn't treat them as bad as he treated the Kurds. See, I'm not against the Americans going into Iraq, because frankly, no one else was going to help sort that situation out, and you just would keep on having people being bloodied and brutalized. The problem is now that people are being brutalized are the American soldiers. No one seems to appreciate that. And it's pretty sad that the people who went in there didn't foresee what was going on. And I saw on the paper today that the new government there now wants to reinstate Saddam's military officers in the army as a way of undermining the insurgency, so they feel part of the establishment rather than having no pension, no salary, and being out there preparing these roadside bombs. And the person who went into Iraq and disbanded the Iraqi army, it should have his head examined. I mean, all those guys wanted was their salary. That's all they want. That's all anyone ever wants. Their benefits, you know what people want, their medical benefits, their pensions, and everything. Give them their salaries. Give them the medical pension. Bring them into the new Iraqi army. As long as they're not like total murderers and everything. They're just doing their job. They're soldiers. Whoever disbanded the army and thought they could train a new one and that